Hey everybody, it's Andrew here and Enzo from Home Theatre Engineering. Hi Enzo.
Hey guys, how are you?
Who have we got today?
Today we're going to talk with Paul about Anthem. Paul's from Anthem. He represents Anthem here in Australia. Paul, how are you?
Very good yourself.
Excellent, awesome. Where are you at the moment? You in Sydney or Melbourne?
We're based in Queensland at the moment, just working from home office during COVID.
Yep. Are you still working from home?
Yes, everyone has to.
Yeah,
Mate, thanks for joining
everyone
us.
has. Yeah.
Really appreciate you being here with us. And
Thank you.
Anthem is a product that we've been using quite a lot of lately, and I've got to say, really happy with it. For me, one of the kick-ass features that I notice compared to a lot of other processors, especially when we're talking AVRs and processors, is that I put an Anthem in and I just get really clear definition with Atmos and the surround channels. And it seems to be something, no one's told me about. I just put it in, I go, hang on, there's something really cool going on here. So look, Enzo and you, I know, have talked, so I'm going to take a bit of a back seat on this one and let you two drive the conversation and look forward to hearing what you have to tell us.
Good.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk about obviously what Anthem itself as a business, its range, why Anthem, what Anthem does better than everyone else. Obviously Arcam and everything, that all the software as well. But yeah, the biggest thing for us is definitely, we do a lot of mixed receivers with power amps, and now looking at also, they do a processor, 11-channel processor. With more to come, I believe. So yeah, we're just going to talk a bit about everything. So I'll leave it with you, Paul.
All right. Well, I've got a bit of a presentation good to go here. So why don't I just share up my screen and flick across to it here.
Two of me, that's just too much.
Good. Okay, so a brief history on Anthem. It was developed over in Canada. It came from a brand called Sonic Frontiers. They also developed the ARC technology, which you see through a suite of products through the Paradigm Logan group, which includes Anthem. They studied the sound quality with a little DSP box that you can see here in the Athena project with a bunch of different companies in Canada that came up with a think tank. Think of like CSIRO in Australia, how we developed Wi-Fi, very similar to what they did over there with the Athena project. They're exploiting room gain, and they're obviously trying to find the best compensation electronically that they could use to make sound better. When I talk about ARC or Anthem room correction, I talk about the last connection. Of course, connect everything with HDMI cables, and then from our amplifier, we connect speaker cables to the speaker. But once it leaves the speaker, it's going to hit the room. That speaker doesn't know that it's going to be placed in Mr. and Mrs. Jones' room or in an anechoic chamber. So effectively, the last connection that not many people are really considering is the room. This is where acoustics or room correction can come in.
Yeah.
So what's ARC? ARC is a tool that comes with every single Anthem ARC-enabled product. You'll have a microphone that comes with the box, and it also comes with a stand for that one, and you're measuring a minimum of 5 positions. And the 5 positions average out the little bubble around your seating location. So it's going to sort of flatten out those peaks and help with the dips also. So this is a really unique feature with this room correction, and it's proprietary. It will run at 32.192, so it's a really high bandwidth room correction. Most of the other ones on the market are actually downsampled to CD quality, which is 44.1.
And I've got to say, what I do like about this is the 5 to 10 positions. A lot of the other products on the market will only allow 4 or 5. Even though it's a 10-seat cinema or an 8-seat cinema.
Good. Yes, so there's some flexibility there in where you can place the bubble through the whole room. The other really good feature with this one, unlike the other sort of Japanese ones that are on the market, it's using the PC or the Mac for the computation to do all of the fuzzy logic, routing of the equalization. I mean, computers have got a lot of power, whereas a poor old AVR the chipset inside of it is not meant to be doing a lot of computation. So the architecture of that one is very different. There's multiple profiles and measurements. So we'll talk about that a little bit more also. So you can save a dedicated stereo profile. You can save a stereo 0.1 profile, and you can save your 7.1.4 profile and have different measurements. So you can measure with your curtains open and your curtains closed. And there's some people that want the me button. That means you just put the microphones around that one seat and recall that one or go into a family mode. There's two modes to perform the calibration. One's automated, and the other one is like a manual, is where an integrator gets in there and plays with the dials a little bit more. It is calibrated over a Wi-Fi connection and USB with some of them.
What I do like there also is that even if you run the automated version, you have an opportunity at the end to review the profiles and the curves, and you can actually still go in and play. And you can actually see what it's done as well, and in fact even create your PDF printout as well. So
I'm happy to provide a demonstration after this so that all the viewers can see the software. This slide here is in regards to it's really, this is my thoughts, and it's permission to speak a bit freely, because the value of this black box that you put in your kit, a significant portion is the black box is the arc. And this is to do with the guys in those white suits that did all the study for all of the fuzzy logic and sticking microphones and blind tests inside of those rooms. A lot of the black boxes on the market now have a badges of honor down the bottom. And one of the big badges of honor that this one has is certainly the Anthem room correction. So the next bit here, everyone's talking about, I want to stick more speakers in because of the advent of Atmos. We're starting to put speakers on the ceiling and enable speakers and bouncing off the ceiling. So this range of MRX AVRs and the AVM processors supports up to a total of 7.1.4 of your 11 channels. The MRX 1120 was one of the first AVRs on the market to power up all 11 channels from one little black box. And, as you said before, Andrew, it's providing that separate sound quality in one box. The high-end version is your AVM 60, and that's a processor that's dedicated for when you're using outboard amplification. And Anthem also has a range of amplifiers in the MCA series and other models for amplifiers. And I know that you guys have got a few of those stuck into your new room.
We've got quite a few MCA 5 channels and 3 channels, and we use them in a lot of our jobs, to be honest.
It's a bit of a go-to. A lot of the amplifiers, there's one in particular, which is the MCA 325. It's a 3-channel device, which means you can power up like your left, center, right, and take the pressure off your AVR, which has some built-in power, and go outboard to power up the left, center, right. You get a little bit more power into those because the distance is quite significant away to the viewers. So we can look at that one here. So this is an example of a speaker with its sensitivity of 89 decibels. To measure SPL, that's a measurement of the power on your AVR or outboard power amplifier, the speaker sensitivity, of course, and the distance. This one here, we've got a 3-meter viewing distance. It's an MRX with 100 watts and 89 dB sensitive speaker, and we're getting approximately 99.5. Now, if we include an MCA amplifier, it's an outboard amplifier, that steps it up to 225 watts. So every time you're trying to get 3 decibels, it's about double power. And you can see there's double and a little bit of power there, achieving 103. So very similar to where you're using projection for screen gain. If you choose a speaker with a slightly higher sensitivity, like this fella here, we've got 92 dB, might cost you a little bit more, and that speaker gives you a little bit more SPL at the seating distance. So same again, 100 watts, 92, we're getting 102.5. And then our magical figure that you guys and a lot of the integrators around, you've got to try and hit 105 dB at the seating location.
So this one, I think it's worth explaining to people what that's about. And there seems to be a little bit of confusion. So very quickly, just to clarify that for those who are watching this, the 105 dB is not the volume that you listen at continuously. That is what the system can produce, as and when required. So, I keep talking about door slamming, thunder strikes, gunshots. And this dynamic range applies to sound as much as it does to picture. But yeah, it then enables you to have these really quiet passages and these really dynamic passages where all of the details are available. So yeah, it's not about deafening yourself. It's about having that definition in your sound.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, your system doesn't run at 105 at all times. And I think that's where a lot of confusion is. So yeah, no, that's a good point.
So this gives you the headroom, and this is a good place to start with headroom is going outboard and power amplifiers. This is the MCA series, very popular series of amplification with Anthem. It's got that classic Anthem North American muscle that it brings to the party. Lots of integrators around the world know and trust this product because of its performance characteristics. It's been in the game that long. It kind of forgotten more about amplification than some of the other guys are even trying to work out.
And they're heavy too.
Very heavy. So this is the backside of two of the key products, the MRX at the top, and you'll notice the amazing guys at Anthem, they love looking after our integrators, and they paint things white, which are going outputs, and all the black stuff is your inputs. So the top one there, MRX, which you can power up all of your 11 channels, you can see on the backside with those speaker terminals. And then underneath you can see XLRs on the separates with the AVM60. So how does ARC work? It's got those 5 locations. This is a top view down. Obviously there's the money seat or the main listening position that's there.
Sweet spot.
The sweet spot. And then you've got, got to go through other locations. There's a bit of a note on this slide here. And just recently, only in the last 3 months, they've recommended 2-3, which is the front ones. You can vary the height of those ones by about 150 or 300 millimeters and get a different result. So the front 2 and the rear 2 can be adjusted in the height, not at ear height, as they do declare for position 1. And you can actually get a couple of good results from that one. I recommend that you save profiles and recall that one and get into it. So what's required? As I mentioned before, ARC comes with a microphone with every single kit. Sometimes it's calibrated, sometimes it's batch calibrated from the manufacturer. And you can download free software, and it's for PC and Mac. So I encourage all your listeners to actually download this one because there's a demonstration version of the software too. So how does it work? It's like many of the other solutions around on the market. It's going to provide a tone of a frequency sweep through each individual speaker, and it kind of wants to feedback. It wants to listen to how that speaker is performing inside of the room. And this is probably where Andrew probably wants to talk a little bit more about the red curve, the green curve, and the stay in my lane black curve.
Yeah, look, I won't harp on, but just so that people know what they're looking at, the red curve or the red wiggly line that we see is the measured response of the speaker in that room. And I think that's important. It's not the speaker, it's the speaker in that room. And if you put that speaker in a different room or a different place, it's going to be entirely different. It also relates to where you are in the room as well. So it's not just the speaker in the room, it's you in the room in that seating position. The colours are a bit hard to define on here. The other squiggly line, which is the corrected response, is post, obviously, calibration, which you'll talk about, and the green is the black is our target curve.
That's right. And you will notice this is what's unique and why everyone loves Anthem is that a lot of the systems on the market, they kind of just go flat and they're a bit dull and they lack a bit of bass performance. So there's a measurement of reference and preference, and everyone loves to wind up the bass. Who doesn't? I do. I know that you guys do. And you can see there's a little bit of a natural bump there on the lower frequencies down towards 20 hertz up to sort of 200 hertz. Then it goes a bit flat. So we'll talk about the correction that it does, like an inverse correction to keep and maintain the green line that you can see there within the actual arc lane. Okay, so room gain is one of the largest things that these guys really like to talk about, these white suit academic guys that come up with this little black box of ARC software, which has been continuously developed actually. Every time someone does a calibration, you're feeding some information back to their mothership, and they're continually developing the software and making the algorithm exceptionally better. So room gain has to do with soon as us human beings go into a room, we kind of artificially know with our grey matter that there's a natural gain inside of the room. Yeah. So placing a speaker into a room, we know how it's going to sound. Very similar to when we walk into a room, we can hear the natural reverberations inside of it, and we kind of know how big it is. So this is what they've done. They've blended the computer reference with the psychoacoustics of the room. That's the measurement of scientific study of how we perceive sound inside of the room, and they've gone for the magic preference over the dull reference that most of the other ones are producing. So what do we do with our measurement? Funnily enough, we have a proper stand that comes with every single Anthem product. You'll notice that some of the other products will come with a little folded stand. So hopefully
cardboard.
Yeah, hopefully you're good at your origami, Enzo, and you can put them together. So ear height here, the first one, it'll do a sweep through the room. You'll hear that through every speaker that you got configured. You can adjust the height for those front positions there. Again, running a sweep through the room, 2 and 3, and then stick the microphone around the bubble also. This one's doing just the 5 locations, but you might choose to do 10 if you've got a larger cinema room.
Yeah.
So the ARC software and the ARC technology expands through Martin Logan, Paradigm, and Anthem product. And Anthem is what we're kind of concentrating on here today, but you'll see that same technology through other products as well. And I'm very pleased to say, because I'm a Mac person, that finally now ARC Genesis, which is the latest incarnation of the software, is finally available for Mac. And they're also producing a lot with the iOS and Android devices. Android devices will require a connection to the microphone because Android devices have different microphones, and the microphones they place in iOS devices typically have a bit more of a calibration threshold and get a better result, a more consistent result, I would say. Okay, we spoke before about when you launch your software, it'll launch into an automatic mode or a professional mode. So if those tweakers of you out there that love to do a bit of a tweaking, then I suggest that you put it into professional mode. I will note down the bottom there, you can see that if you need to, if you started in auto mode, you can get into preferences and swap that to professional mode. You just have to restart the software. Okay, so
we've got a few customers that like to tweak.
Yeah, this is the perfect thing for it, Enzo, because you can actually save a configuration and recall it. So you know, if they've stuffed up something there, they can obviously get their computer and upload it, the original, and they're back up and running again. So, you know, if you've got a spare weekend and you're locked up and all you can do is work on your house and you can't go down the pub like it is right now, it's a better time to do it. Okay, so here you have to set the distances in your AVR or your processor for how far away the speakers are. And it's great to have one of those laser pointers there too. Now, for those that are doing multiple subs, I know everyone kind of loves to go the multiple sub thing now. You'll have to balance those subwoofers to a level. 75 dBs is typically the level. And once you leveled out those subwoofers inside of the room, it makes things a lot easier. Otherwise, it's going to muddle up all of the results.
Quick question for you there. One of the things that seems to be missed out in a lot of these books, instructions, manuals, guides, and everything is, and I don't know if I'm going to put you on the spot here or not, so I apologise in advance, but 75 dB flat, 75 dB C, 75 dB A.
It's usually a C setting, but as long as you've got an averaging over, especially these are bass frequencies that you're actually making a tone out. So if you place the tone from your AVR, and you can hear that one directly with the software. So if it's 80, you just lower that one on the subwoofer to get it at 75. As long as they are the same, once it goes through ARC, it will level out.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's just because, as we know, the DBC and DBA fond curves actually roll off a lot of bass. So with subwoofers, one of the challenges is actually getting. I mean, as you say, with this, what we're talking about with ARC, it's not so important because ARC will sort that out. But yeah, that's a good point. All right.
Good. So I'd like to talk a little bit more on subwoofer placement because I know you guys are the same. And I put this one up.
Love our 4 subs.
Yes. So multiple subs is definitely a trend that's happening. We saw that from Cedia in the States last year. A lot of the demonstrations from all the vendors had 4 subwoofers in all of their smaller rooms. This room here being 5.5 meters long by 4 meters. And I've just put in here, you can see the little dip through the room. So if I'm playing a tone that's 31.3 hertz in this particular room, you're bound to hear nothing in the middle of the room. That's because of the axial modes or how the bass works inside of the room.
Correct. Yeah.
So of course, Cedia has come up with an ideal sub placement, and this is a sub placement guide based off multiple guides that are on the market. I don't know if you want to expand onto this one at all, Andrew.
No, just what I would say to people is, either if you can't get your hands on the CDO guide, as I've said many times, so Sound Reproduction by Floyd Tool's got a great chapter on this stuff. So.
Excellent. So take note of this one. The next bit here, we've got the bass leveling. So there's a functionality, and I'll get into this functionality once I do a live demonstration after this one. But there's a feature here called Quick Measure. So Quick Measure is like a real-time analyzer. So it's possible to hear that first subwoofer. You can listen to that second subwoofer, and you can notice that they're going to be different. They have different characteristics as to the placement of it. So for you guys, I know that you guys do this a lot, is you kind of get the subwoofers right into this magical green Goldilocks zone before you even performing an ARC calibration. And I suggest to all the viewers to do exactly that, is to try and get it into that green Goldilocks zone before you perform an ARC calibration, because then the software doesn't have to work quite as hard.
I think sorry to interrupt you, mate, but I think that's a really important point. And I've mentioned this before, a lot of people think that room correction has these magical powers that it can fix everything. And, my attitude has always been, look, room correction is great, and it's got really, really good in the last few years. And Arc Genesis is a stunning example of that. But people tend to think that it's the panacea, it fixes everything. And one of the challenges I face, Enzo's sick of hearing the story, but I got called into a job where a guy had run his room correction, and still no good result. And in the end, I said, look, I know the problem. And he said, well, how can you possibly know the problem? You haven't really sort of listened to it that much. And I said, well, let's just move the big pop plants away from in front of your speakers. And room correction won't do that. So yeah, I think it's really important for people to understand, get everything right first, and then the room correction will do a far, far better job, and it's the icing on the cake. So yeah.
Yep. So a very basic way of doing this one for the guys is you've got that bass wave that goes through, and you've got that pocket of no bass inside of the room at that particular frequency. So you can use that quick measure functionality down there, and have a friend inside of the room turn the dial with the other subwoofer and kind of overlap the frequencies, so you've got smaller pockets, and all the seats have a better bass distribution over that one. So you can use phase, and you can use time alignment there also. I do note on the back side of these processors, there's 2 subwoofer outputs, and they are duplicated as such. They're not treated as individual. So this is a bit of a chart here. For some of those guys, it's quite an interesting chart. So you can see decibels up in terms of height, We can see the frequency range, the bass frequencies right down at 10 hertz, all the way up to the 20,000 hertz. And this is the auditory experience and what us human beings hear. And you can see over the top of that one, the orchestral range. So, you know, grand piano might be able to get up to 100 dB, and the vocal range that's there. So everything's made up of low, medium, and high frequencies. The ARC preferred correction, you can see the little green one down the bottom there. ARC likes to do things all the way up to about 5,500 hertz. That's typical. There's some people that like to take it all the way up to 20,000 hertz, and you can do that with each individual speaker in this system. But you'll note a lot of people are only going to about 300 or 1,000 hertz because they know that the natural voicing quality of that speaker, and if you position and get that speaker on axis, you don't really need to correct it because the directionality of those high frequencies are going to be affected if you're going to perform that correction into them. So sometimes, and you'll see it a lot with some of the frequencies, it's going to be jumping up and down in the lower frequencies and not so much of the high frequencies. Okay, so this one here is about the bass management. So we all know that the 5.1, the 0.1 channel performs that bass functionality. This is where I think Anthem has done like a 0.1 plus, because they're butting up with other speakers. So these speakers you can see on this particular one here are Martin Logan speakers. I've got these ones in my house. They go to 100 hertz. That's not very low, but they're sitting off to the side of my TV. But I do have a Anthem MRX product, and I've got a subwoofer. So now, once this calibration happened, it knew that those speakers can't get down to 80 hertz. It can only go down to 100 hertz. So it says, hey, you subwoofer over there, can you give me a hand?
You do the rest.
Yeah, it buddies up with the subwoofer. So you've got a full sonic range for all of the channels throughout your room. And that's particularly good. I know everyone here has probably seen the movie Ratatouille, and Ratatouille has information in the surround sound channels at around 30 hertz. So if you want to hear that the mouse gets squashed in your surround sound, you're not going to do it because most of them are only going to go down to 80 hertz. With Anthem products, you're going to hear that one with the bass management. It's really clever. So here's a few features and differences between the previous ARC to the ARC Genesis software, which was out last year. You can see there's a bit more curve viewers, there's more quick measures, and lots more functionality. So they're increasing the functionality of the ARC's software. Okay, here's a few screenshots before we go in and check out a demo, and I'll run it all through. But essentially, you are inputting how many speakers, how's your speakers configuration going inside of the room. You'll select a microphone, and you might actually have to input the calibration of the microphone, which will suck that one down from the mothership of Anthem, because it's going to be razor accurate to your room. This is studio quality sound that we're getting. And then we have system-wide targets down there. So we can take a look at this software now. So I'm going to flip across.
And I think that is just awesome, giving people such ownership as well of what being able to modify and have a play without actually affecting and stuffing things up.
That's it. So once you launch the software, it'll come into this section here. I'm just running a demonstration of this one. So if you do want to run the demonstration in your preferences here, you can turn the demo on. I'm in professional mode, and those analytics, I'm sending that one back to the mothership to make sure all the people around the world get a continued better algorithm of this one. So I'm going to launch ARC here, and these are all the different products you can see on my network. This one here is an MRX 1120. So it sees this one, and I'm going to hit continue over here. So this is the configuration of the room where you can use some other channels for zone 2 or the height. You can see the configuration here is a 7 bed channels, 4 on the roof, 0.1, so 7.1.4. So you've got a measurement A that's here, so and that's got all of the channels. But this secondary measurement B, we might enable this one, and only we'll turn off the backs, the heights, and everything else. So you can only see it's a stereo 0.1. Okay. And you can have another one here that's just stereo if you want, but we'll just do these two. We'll select the microphone. We'll input the microphone calibration file if that's the case. And so now it's nice and simple. Where are we here? We're up to measure our system. We've done our microphone. We're going to take measurements. We've got measurement A and measurement B. So we'll stick our microphone in that first position, main listening position, the sweet spot. We'll hit start, and you're going to hear the sweet tones through every single speaker in the room. And you can see it's a bit of a bumpy day on the ocean because that's how it is normally. You'll go through for all of the locations. You can see that we're up to 4, placing the microphone at the back, place the microphone at the back for 5. So we've done all 5 positions that's there. Now we're going to move on to measurement B, which is our stereo 0.1. So we'll measure that position. We'll measure that position. You can see the different sweeps through the room and how they're drastically different. You can see they're even like 10 decibels different in some locations.
I don't think a lot of people actually realize and understand how different each speaker in that room actually is.
So here we got, and I can make this one go back a little bit so we can see a little bit more detail here. So the front, the center, the front right, the surround left, all of the speakers here, we can see what it's trying to do. That's for the first profile and the second profile and what it wants to correct with that one. We can upload this one to the device. So we just uploaded that configuration. We can go back in, and this is what you guys love to do, is go back into the settings here and adjust the targets. So this is where we can go and play a bit of tweaking. So the room gain here will adjust the frequency. So if I move this one quite significantly now, you can see this one sort of jumping up and down.
Changes.
Yep, so that's the target. That's kind of the laneway where it wants everyone to drive within. So the room gain of how many dBs and where that frequency bump is, you can see that frequency bump changing at that crossover point. Deep bass boost, for those that want to annoy your neighbors, you can really pump up a little bit more of the deep bass boost that's there, and an overall tilt to the whole frequency range. It's possible to tilt that one there also. But what a lot of people tend to play with is the fronts here. So we can see that the 2 front speakers, they have a subwoofer crossover here of 80 hertz. So these speakers might be able to go down lower. These might be capable of 45 hertz. I might hit 50. So that black line will take it down even lower. And I'm not concerned about that one too much because, like we said before, our subwoofer does the little 0.1 plus. It buddies up with the subwoofer to get a little bit of extra bass down low. So you can make it dead flat, so your speakers are capable of it, or get the job for the subwoofer and feed more of the energy into your speaker over the other range and make it a lot more efficient. So for those guys that are doing home cinemas, they like that really sharp roll-off or a flat roll-off of the high frequencies. You can choose this. This will make a determination based upon the room and what it hears, but it's allowing you to do what you would like to do with the fronts, with the subwoofer. And you can see the high frequency extension of the subwoofer. It wants to come into 200 hertz because it wants to buddy up with those other speakers for the bass management inside of the room. I noted before about the maximum correction. You might say, okay, look, I can see on the chart here at about 300 hertz, that's the natural voicing of the speaker. So I don't want it to do too much work. I'm going to pull it back to about 400 hertz, and then that's the natural sound of the speaker. But these massive big dips and bumps, I want it to try and fix up the bass inside of the room, which is the hardest bit with small room acoustics. And once you're done there, you're simply uploading it.
It's pretty awesome. We've used a lot of different room corrections over the years, and I'm not sure exactly, probably around a year ago, I'm not sure when it first came out, I sort of leapt on Arc Genesis. And sometimes if you're pushed for time, I do a speaker by speaker manual EQ, HAA style, but I've got to say the Arc Genesis is now bringing things to the point where it does such a spectacularly good job, and especially on the subwoofers. And I've been very impressed, even with the default settings, just how much character and definition it brings out. And one of the questions, and I think you may be going to go there anyway, is something I work a lot with is those room modes. So you've got you had that example there around 32 hertz.
You can identify those room modes
Absolutely.
with the software. A lot of the software doesn't give you the feedback. This one does, and you can see it real time, analyze it. So for you guys, it's an excellent tool, and I guess I completely understand why you guys is a go-to product for you guys.
Absolutely, but I guess one of my questions is traditionally, if it's a room mode issue, you've got the two the frequencies cancelling themselves out, or the frequency cancelling itself out, and normally if you boost that frequency, you can't improve it. It's a hole, But I've noticed, and I think you alluded to this early in the conversation, is that the Anthem seems to have a few tricks up its sleeve, because I've noticed I've deliberately sort of gone in there and gone, right, there's my room mode, there's a really big dip, run Arc Genesis, and it's gone. And I'm like, okay, that's sneaky.
It's remarkable that it's one of the only software that can actually fix the dips. The dips are impregnated into those rooms. They're a room mode.
Yeah, they're a physical...
It does some sort of sorcery inside of it, and that's its proprietariness. To actually lift up those dips, by 5 dB when the other guys can't even do 5 or 2 dB. You're trying to fix something that can't be fixed unless you add more subwoofers into the room.
Yeah, and just a caution to those of you out there who if you're running our Room EQ Wizard and doing your own manual calibration and stuff, do not just go pumping power into those dips, guys, because all you're going to do is rob your room or your system of energy. You have to physically manage that, and obviously it's a secret sauce, but you got to move exactly, mate. You got to move the subs and move the people, but if you're really kind of not up to that and you don't know what you're doing, I got to say I think Arc Genesis is pretty close to the solution that seems to sort it without too much of a headache.
Good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
awesome, that's good. And I mean, look, and even like I said, there's so many different ranges. There's the 3 different types of receivers. So there is talk of obviously more channel processors coming soon.
Like every other product in the world, they're always developing.
I
assume there's something on the roadmap, and it's going to be good. What a lot of people note is that when they buy Anthem, they've got something for a very, very long life cycle. It's not a brand that continuously brings something out all the time. When you invest in something like this, you're getting a lot of longevity. Even right now, it's up to full spec. We're at 4K, 444, ticks all the boxes, does DTS, does Atmos, does absolutely everything what is required right now. So it's good to go.
And I've got to say, the 1120, I mean, if you are in that budget bracket, if that's where you're sitting, the 1120 gives you enough speakers in the room. I mean, we've the last, how many, 3 or 4 rooms that we've built now have been 1120s, I think. And
it's a go-to AVR on the market for sound quality and to power up all of those channels.
Yeah, spectacular. If that's where you're sitting and that fits your needs, and I would say, punches quite well above its weight. So yeah.
Good.
Very good.
I think it gives the very expensive. I mean, I know that's a receiver, and we're talking processors now, but it gives those really expensive processors, without naming names, a very big run for their money. We've done rooms that have had expensive processors, and then done a room a week after, which has been an 1120 with a 3-channel MCA 325.
Good.
And mate, it's impressive.
Great
for the
results.
money
I mean,
and the product.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have your 16, 20, 32 channels, but certainly, in terms of comparison, it's a great.
It doesn't make a comparison. If you can do 7.1.4 really well, adding more channels is depreciating sort of what you're trying to get. from the whole system.
Look, we're big fans of that. I mean, even with people who are, starting off, it's like do 5.1, get it damned right. Really get it right, and then you can build on that. And even and the other thing too is sort of future proofing. So people will come to us and say, okay, I'm going to put 5.1, and we'll go, look, can you just stretch your budget to put an 1120 in and then we'll pre-wire your house for the other channels, but you don't need to buy the speakers now. But you're ready, because then you don't have to rip your old processor out or AVR out, sell it on Gumtree and lose a bucket load of money, and then have an electrician come back and chase your walls. Let's just plan ahead. I mean,
good. I like the way you think. Very good.
But I mean, that's the thing. People don't talk about planning. They go, here's a 12 grand, pack. Off you go. And then a year later they go, right, want to expand that, and they come to us and we go, no, sorry, you got to up your this, you got to change that, you got to chase your walls.
Why you guys are certainly pushing that expertise out there, the genuine expertise, and that's why we love partnering with you. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thanks, mate. So, is there anything else is sort of on the horizon that you can tell us about?
For updates, the bones are always very good with Anthem. So the new update is going to be IMAX Enhanced, which is coming through shortly.
Cool.
There is DTS Play-Fi, and that one is always being updated for Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Music, and the like. But that's the updates for the time being in the time frame, and everything that due to COVID is kind of been pushed away, probably about 3 months or so. So. Hopefully we see some more announcements coming closer to CEDIA in the States, which is around September in 2020.
Awesome, mate. Thank you so much for your time. Enzo, anything?
No, look, great. I mean, I hope the slideshows helped a lot of people, and any questions or any comments or anything down the bottom, and I'm sure Paul will see them as well.
Yeah, happy to get in there.
We'll help wherever we can.
Excellent.
Yep. Awesome, guys. Thank you very much. As usual, please subscribe, like the channel, do all those right things, get the notifications, and then Paul will be keeping an eye on what you have to say about this video, so that'd be really cool.